I'm working on an azimuth and elevation antenna rotor, and there seems to have been a lot of interest in this design, so I figured it was time for an update. So in this video I'll show you the current progress, I address some questions, and we'll discuss some of the design decisions and address some of the problems I'm currently facing. And in the end we'll talk about what antenna we're going to put on top of it. My goal for this project was a lightweight, portable, cheap DIY antenna rotor. After completing the 3D design in FreeCAD, I was unable to decide on a color to print, so I threw every color I had at the printer. And I think it turned out great. At least it looks good on video with all the colorful parts. I finally got the sensors in the mail and installed. And room for the electronics was kind of an afterthought. The only place I could fit the ESP32 was jammed between the azimuth worm gear and the sidewall. And after removing the pins and soldering LEDs directly to the ESP32, I could barely squeeze it in. I printed my largest 3D print so far, namely the cover that provides some weatherproofing. And with that, the first complete assembly is done and working. Now let's discuss the design. One concern some of you have pointed out is if the plastic is going to hold up against the forces. But before we look at the material choice, let's discuss another design principle that is far more important to holding up against the forces, namely the moment arm. Moment arm, or a lever arm, is the distance between the axis of rotation and the force acting upon the rotation. If you try to push a door close to the hinge side, you have to push a lot harder than if you push the door on the knob. Same, if I try to hold my antenna at the end of a long stick, it's a lot harder than keeping the antenna close to the rotation point, my hand in this case. This is a very important principle to have in mind when you design an antenna rotor or mount or anything that is going to hold up a lot of force. To account for this in the antenna rotor, we want to keep the center of gravity as close to the center of rotation as possible. And we also want to keep our support points, the bearings in this case, as far from the center of mass as possible. We want to target to create a balanced rig where the center of mass is as close to the center of the elevation beam as possible. And wind may be a challenge as the center of wind gust may differ from gravity. But the principle of moment arm also applies here. So in my case, I'm going to keep in mind the distance between the bearing and the center of mass. Elevation has a fairly large distance between the bearings, and the center mass may possibly end up right in the middle of the bearings, an ideal scenario. The azimuth, however, I designed to place the azimuth axis in the center, which limits me to place the whole azimuth assembly below the elevation axis, and therefore both bearings fall below the center of mass. A better design might be to offset the azimuth a bit, so that it can pass the elevation axis and put a bearing on the top, so we get a bearing above the center of mass. Another way to improve the loads on the construction is to increase the distance between the bearings and decrease the distance to the center of mass. When it comes to the gears, I chose to use worm drive. And one of the good things with a worm drive is that you can get an insane ratio of the gears. Mine has a 50-to-1 ratio, meaning the worm gear has to move 50 rounds to get 1 revolution on the main gear. This also supports the use of weaker motors, and it has a strong holding force. Some of the downside is that you have more friction on the gears, and they need to be lubricated. I may also try some different materials if this turns out to be a problem. But also with the gears, we have the principle of moment arm. You see, the larger gears on the axle limits the forces on the gear spokes. When it comes to the plastic, I have it all 3D printed in PETG at the fairly standard settings. PETG is going to handle being outside in weathers better than, for instance, PLA, and it's a bit more flexible, so it won't crack as easily. I'm a bit pragmatic in the way I develop, so let's just start with the simple and see if it fails, and we fix it after that. Maybe I'll replace some parts, for instance the gears, with other materials like nylon or PTFE. Now let's discuss the motors. A very reasonable alternative for a antenna rotor is the NEMA 17 stepper motor. Comparing the torque, the MG66R servo actually has a higher raw torque, but the NEMA 17 has a higher holding torque. Anyways, the high gear ratio limits the required torque, and both alternatives will work fine. Weight, however, my goal was to limit the weight, and the MG966R has a weight of approximately 55 grams, while the NEMA 17 comes in at between 130 to 500 grams, depending on which gearbox is attached, and in addition you require a separate driver at about 200 grams, so we're close to a 10x in weight. But for a permanent home antenna, weight may not be a property of consideration, and maybe I'll make a version of that in the future as well. The cost will also increase a bit with these stepper motors. For the sensors to determine position, there's several options. Accelerometers detect the gravity force. So the idea is that you get 1 G reading on the axis straight down. But these are also affected by acceleration, so any movement or vibration is going to affect the reading. A gyro is detecting rate of turn around the axis. Sounds about perfect. However, a gyro has no exact reference, so it's going to drift over time. A compass shows direction along the azimuth axis, but is affected by metal and other magnetic fields. The good thing about any of these is that they require no reference to work. So they are perfect to use in drones or other navigational purposes where you have no reference. The weakness of each sensor can be addressed by filtering the reading of all the sensors together to cancel out the errors. However, in the rotor, as it turns out, we have a frame to use as reference and can use an exact encoder to make a simple and accurate angle detection. I chose to go with the AS5600 Magnetic Encoder, and it worked perfect until I tried to transmit and introduced RF into the mix. Turns out RF has a rather powerful magnetic field. I have done some software tweaking that kind of works for the moment, but may prove unstable. Time will tell. There is only so far firmware updates can take you. This reminds me of the great effort some of the space organizations have put into their satellites to address problems that sooner or later happen with their satellites. A switch of sensors while the satellite is in space is not going to happen. There are other types of exact encoders that may be an option, but the ones I found are rather expensive. If you have any tips, please comment down below. One requirement I have for the exact encoder is the ability to place the encoder at the center of the axis and not on the center of the motor. That way we can detect the angle directly from the exact encoder. If it turns out that the magnetic encoder is rather unstable, I may try to shield it with some metal, or I may end up falling back to accelerometer, gyro and compass sensors. To power the rotor, I could have used an on-board battery and be able to turn indefinitely around the azimuth axis. However, I'm going to place antennas on top of this, and they are going to have coax cables anyways, so it makes better sense to place the battery externally. Ideally, I would like to power the servos motors at 6 volts, but I usually bring batteries around 12 volts for my ham radio gear, so I am going to install a step-down converter to support 12 volts. As of now, I have only connected a USB cable and power it from a power bank, and it kind of works for now. And now the antennas. As the satellites tumble through space, the antennas are constantly shifting in orientation. Using a handheld Yagi, we address this by trying to rotate the antenna to match the satellite's polarization. If you have a mismatch in polarization, you may experience up to a 30 dB loss. A better option may be to use a circular polarized antenna, where the polarization is rotating. This will give you a constant 3 dB loss that may be acceptable. I already have my 2 meter cross Yagi build, but upcoming is the build video of my 30 centimeter cross Yagi. It is going to have 9 elements in both axes and use coax stubs for matching and phasing. Will I share my CAD files? As you may see, this is very much a work in progress. and both the STL files and also the code will require some tweaking, and I have to do a lot of cleanup before I'm ready to share anything. And as this is just a hobby and I work at irregular times, and I'm allergic to timelines, I'm not too keen on naming what the future brings. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the journey with me. If you listened to all the way up until now, you may as well like and subscribe and hit the bell icon. 7-3.